Namaskar. I'm Kumarakis and you're watching Global Governance News TV. Today we are going to discuss the Kashmiri Hindu exodus, role of governments and Bharat. And we have data according to government, 44,167 according to government data. Personally, I don't going to believe in that. Sorry. So that already, I think they are the immigrants and whatever in our country. And recently, last 2 years, 4,300 has already taken back and returned to Valley as government claimed. And but most of the leader of Kashmir and the leaders of the Kashmiri Hindu are not happy with the performance of the government. Whatever have been doing, they are doing now. If you see the data or and actually whatever scene is there, so we can understand the what is situation. Just I'm not going to detail in theoretical way, but practically I just try to sketch the scene. What happened and what should be happen now after 5th August 2019. And what we were told, we're told to convert, die, or leave the horrors. And how the 19th January 2022 marked the beginning of 32nd year of exile of the Kashmiri Pandit. I'm not believing that Kashmiri Pandit, Kashmiri Hindus, that is all the narratives has to discuss, we'll discuss. This day, 1990, without the misery of the community and subsequently led to the ethnic cleansing from the Kashmir at the hand of Islamists, separatists, and terrorists. They are active. Or recently, they have just tried to show their so-called power in the Ram Temple and others. And 32 years ago, everybody knows what happened in Kashmir, the night of January 19. But that was already last 3 years, 4 years back. This is not once one day. I mean, chronicle the members of community as the complete horror and hostility not seen before anywhere. The entire population slept and kept eyes and ears shut, even as the fanatics danced on the valley streets and roads, rode from the loudspeakers, stopped mosques, and threatening to rape and kill the Kafirs if they failed to leave Kashmir. What was the United Nations done today? What has the organization done? This is also a matter of record. And recently, I'm just trying to quote some tweets. Now, at the age of the Twitter, we are just living in the age that is so. I think I personally don't believe in the Twitter age of the governance, whatever the government of India and other governments are just trying to do. Many leaders, activists, authors, civilians have taken Twitter to share their experiences. General VK Singh, our minister, he was army chief. What he said, 32 years have passed since the exodus of Kashmir. Bandits from the valley, hate made them leave a land they love and help build. I hope for a day when they reinvigorate the valley within taste and care. Hashtag Kashmiri Pandit. Sahil took over 32 years. Over the time, the temporary become the permanent. As a refugee, I desire nothing but this permanent displacement to be temporary. I want to see my brother and sisters in exile returning to their homeland. Hashtag Kashmir Exodus 1990 and genocide and Kashmiri Pandits. And Rai Motor, Divyan Mishra, replying to the thousands of them were killed, raped, and tortured just to being Hindu, never forget their plight. Another one, 11,686 days ago, in the middle of night, a blackout took place in Kashmir. Electricity was cut everywhere except in mosque, loudspeaker blared. Kashmiri Hindus convert, die, and leave. The darkest night is not to be ended. We await sunrise. And some tweets also there. One of the Sushanta writer, the exile and dignity. And this is a camp. Just you have showed the camp. I was on to show you, but I think this all create the, I think, so sadness. But we are going to know the facts and just expected the what now government of India and Modi government is doing for them the Kashmiri Hindus. And this is a camp where lived for 16 years under the very harsh conditions in independent India. Muti camp faced second. The camp swallowed hundreds of Kashmiri Pandits. I remember them all. I remember everything. I'll never forget. And one of the Ikturati just also said the world media, uh, just he already to advocate, she is advocate. Exodus of 1990 were the uprooted from the valley overnight in the wake of terror threats. They are still waiting to return. World media refused to report. Supreme Court refused to hear again. UN Women Organization kept silent on rapes and genocides. And now we can just going to start our discussion today. We have Mr. Raj Kaul from the Chicago, and he also activist here, and already done the so many uh, ways just to know the issues. Dr. Sanjay Kaul is just already in the Boston, USA, highly active and work for the so many organization, also sit with the BHP, another Hindu organization. Vandana Jinganji, senior journalist and social activist from Chicago, USA. Vidya Bhushan Darji, already a writer, social activist from the Canada, living in Toronto, and Dr. Vinikant Ruzi from the Delhi, Bharat, already just she is one of the immigrants who's living in uh, Bharat, India, and he is a famous pulmonologist, doctor in Apollo Hospital, and already active social front. So start from today, Raj Kaulji, how just you see the today situation condition about the Kashmiri Hindus living in the different parts of world, as well as what the Modi government has done, what should be done more.
Sure. First of all, Kumarji, thank you for inviting to the show. Really appreciate it. And also, namaskar to everyone, all the co-panelists here. Uh, just to start with, where we are as a Kashmiri Pandit community, and where, in terms of the current state and where we should be, and first of all, thank you to Modi ji and Amit Shah ji. There has been a lot of transformation, a lot of change which has happened over the course of time, especially after removal of Article 370 and 35A, which was a block spot on our constitution or on that from a government of India standpoint. So really, thank you for making that change, that transformation. A couple of things in terms of what can be done and where we are now. I'll just focus. I won't go to the history, of course. There's a lot to speak, but I'll just keep it current in terms of what is needed right now and what should be done more, which has not been done. So, few things. We as a community, obviously we are looking for preserving our culture, our religious identity, our ethnic identity, and that those roots are slowly and steadily we are losing them because of our the current state, and that needs to be preserved in any shape and form. And few things, and I'll just put specific points which can be done. And obviously, current government has done a lot, but there is definitely some key areas where we need to be focused on. So number one is our religious places in Kashmir, the temples which have been destroyed. Absolutely, if Ram Mandir can be remade, I think Martand can be remade. We need to make religious pilgrimage from India and other places required. And we should have a sister temple. We should have a temple, for example, an Amarnath temple or a Ganpadera temple should have Siddhi Vinayak as a sister, or what you call a brother temple, and people, the devotees from Siddhi Vinayak should be visiting Ganpatiyar. And that should be promoted by the government as well as the people of India, the Hindus of India. So that's number one. Number two is we need to have some kind of a process where we can take our youth to Kashmir. Our children, our youth have to be connected. So there should be a government facilitated process where we can get more and more kids going to Kashmir. And that is obviously our community can do, but we can only do enough. So I think we need a program from the government, from the governor of Delhi, from governor of Jammu and Kashmir, as well as the government of India to have that facilitate that process. So that's the third thing is we need to create secure space for our people to go back and settle down. I know there's a program going on right now, but we need to create spaces where our community can live, practice safely. I think there is movement on that, but we need to accelerate that and create safe zones where our community and other folks from the other parts of the country can freely go there. The fourth thing is making sure the employment that our community and other people from other parts of India should be freely going to Kashmir and be employed there, live happy, safe. The safety is important, and then the next will come the economic prosperity. And what that will do is that is going to help the community around in Kashmir as well. There are multiple things. I'll just stop here and take a pause. I just want to give opportunity for the rest of the panel also to speak on this topic as it's very important. So I'll just yield back to Kumarji. Back to you.
So nice, Rajji. Just your brief. Sanjay Kaulji, just you are very active. Just last 2 years, you have just organized many programs just for awareness for the Kashmiri Hindu from the land of just Boston and USA, and all just connected, and just for the temples, and just for the people, just for the whatever welfare scheme should go to the concern. And after the abrogation of 370, you're very active. You think last 2 years, my just I'm not going to history back, that what was done, that was totally unjustified, totally in the all forms, we can say not acceptable at all. So just on 5 August 2019, today is 22nd January 2022. How just you're happy with the performance of government just for resettlement of Kashmir Hindu? That is a main agenda according to me. That should be main agenda for government. But what they have done, what they have been doing, how you are satisfied or not?
Thank you, Kumar Rakesh, and namaskar to all the viewers and fellow panelists. To answer your question, with the BJP government led by Modi ji, our expectations have been at the highest level, because this is the Hindu nationalist government, RSS-backed government, and this is the most opportune time. If anything can be done for the Kashmiri Pandits, Kashmiri Hindus, then this is the time. So our expectations are high. What I can say on personal level is they are a dollar short and a day late. Even though you mentioned that they did remove Article 370 and 35A of Indian Constitution that gave a special status to Kashmir, Jammu and Kashmir state, but then what has it done for us as the Kashmiri Hindus? We welcomed that move of the government. We did actually have been supporting such a move for years and decades. But if you look at it, after that, they introduced the Domicile Act. Now, what does Domicile Act do? Somebody who has lived in Kashmir or studied in Kashmir for 15 years will get that domicile certificate. Then they can apply for a job. That means they still created a restrictive atmosphere where an Indian from any part of the India cannot come and actually get a job in Kashmir. So that is a ground reality. Despite what they removed, they still created a bubble around the Kashmir and the Jammu and Kashmir state. In regards to our history, though you said let's not go into history, but we have anybody who forgets their history is definitely going to perish. Because
sorry, I'm not going to say that just to forget. That kept the reference. We should not forget. We have not forgotten.
We should not forget. See, Kashmiri Hindus have been aborigines of Kashmir Valley for more than 6,000 years. Our history is there. It's the written history. And we have been the fountain head of the Hindu Dharma. That is why every Hindu, when they wake up, they turn towards north and bow their head in reverence to Ma Sharda. That's how it happens. And then post India's independence, we have been the flag bearers of the Indian flag in Kashmir Valley, despite being a minuscule minority. And we have worked. What have we gotten in return? We have gotten genocide in return. We have been forced to leave our home, our hearth, and live as refugees in our country. And what has that led to? We are being called as immigrants. And that continues till this date. Am I an immigrant in my own country? No, I'm an immigrant in America. I came here for greener pastures. I settled down here. I can be labeled as an immigrant, but not in India. I am a refugee in my own country. And if this government had labeled us as internally displaced people, I would have loved that. We can talk more about that, but let's continue with other panelists.
So nice. Just you said, I am refugee in my country.
Yes.
What a word. How just haunts just the mind of the people. Why and what for? Vidya Bhushan Darji. How just you feel it living in Canada many years? The feeling like that. And just a Vidya just we are talking, just how you feeling just we are refugee in our country. Why and what for? Vidya Bhushan ji, please unmute yourself, please. Thank you.
Namaskar, Kumar Rakeji, and namaskar to all the panelists and all the viewers. Rakeji, what I want to basically express here is when Sanjayji said that we became refugees in our own land, this was not the first time that we became refugees in our own land. This was our seventh exodus in the history of Kashmir. In the last 485 years, we became refugees in our own land for the seventh time. But those times were different. Those times were basically under occupational forces like Afghans and Huns and Mughals. But this was a blot in the history of India, independent India, that it happened when our constitution was there, our Indian army was there, our policing was there, and we had an elected government, a democratic government, and it happened in such a times. And not very far away, we just talking about 32 years ago, it happened. We became refugee in our own land. The worst part was that the world remained silent when 500,000 Kashmiri Hindus were basically ousted from their herd and hearth. Our temples were desecrated, our people were maimed, killed, raped, and our houses were looted and set on fire. It was a complete loss of governance on the part of government of India, and it was a complete apathy on the part of government of India, those governments. And the worst part was it continued thereafter. After the VP Singh government, during which we had the first and only Muslim home minister in the country, that whole community was ousted from its home, and the apathy of the future governments came in. We had Rajiv Gandhi followed by that, and then we had many other governments. So this apathy continued. As Kaul Saab said, that we were basically called migrants. We were not migrants. Migrants leave a place for their own benefit, and they leave with their own will. We were basically forced to leave our land. So we should have been called internally displaced people. We were not refugees, of course, because for being a refugee, you had to cross basically an international border. But we were basically internally displaced. We became refugees in our own land. The government apathy continued in that. They talked to those people who wielded the guns and not the people like us who picked up pen instead of a gun. So even today, in the government documentation, in the government references, we are called migrants. We are not migrants. Government of India should give, even Modiji's government continued with the same thing, that we are migrants. We are not migrants. We are internally displaced people. That's one part of it. The second part of it is, which is very pathetic on part of every government in the last 32 years, including the current regime, that the perpetrators of the genocide on us, none of them was tried in the court of law. We had people like Bitta Karate and Yasin Maliks who basically were persecuted for a little bit of time, and then they were basically back in the mainstream. And not basically even maybe a few FIRs were lodged, but majority of the people who basically had hand in basically our exodus, they are still roaming free. So the request to the government of India is, the current regime is, that they should be brought to book and they should be punished under the Constitution of India. That's one of the things which has been there for a long time. Even I remember a few years back, AI case had filed a PIL in the Supreme Court of India for the same purpose, and it was rejected by Supreme Court of India, citing it is a very old case. I mean, we can open a Supreme Court in the middle of the night for a terrorist, but for a genuine cause like Kashmiri Pandits was basically shown the door. So a lot needs to happen. Kashmir is not completely a part of India as per se. Okay, Article 35A is gone, Article 370 has been made defunct, but the real vilai, what we call in Hindi, has not happened. There are still lacunas in that, there is a domicile, there has to be a minimum stay. Kashmir, Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh has to be exactly at par with any part of India like Delhi or other place. Any Indian who wants to work there, who wants to start a business, should be able to go and do the process in like a day, not wait for 15 years to stay there. I'll stop here and we'll listen from other panelists. Thank you.
Uh, Thank you. I'll just come to Viniji. Viniji has a lot, many stories, and I'll also just take from her. Vandanaji, just as a journalist, just how do you think? How do you analyze the? My question is same, but all are just I think speaking diplomatically. I don't know why. As a journalist, my right to ask the question, and just you are the panelist, you are the all the learned people and expert. You have to also reply. But I think this government. I know the Prime Minister Modi. You also know all are just know all made. He's a very judicious person. He just try to always know the facts, truth, and believe in the facts and truths. So I think with this discussion, just I want to know and just try to sketch something. What's the main problem, main issues that not solved last 2 years, taken to the priority? Whatever reports I have, just trying to share with you all you. How just you analyze the situation, Vandanaji?
Namaskar, and to all my co-panelists and Kumar Rakeshji, as we discuss, this subject is very close to our heart because it is not about unless or until we talk. I always say that if you don't cry, mom doesn't give you a milk. We need
Right.
to ask, to be honest, what has happened, what we have got so far. Because I am a girl from Delhi, I have seen the displacement, what they're talking about, how the people, those who came from, it never happened overnight. It was happening, but all of a sudden, what we saw, we were very little at that time, but you could, because there are some memories of a childhood which stays with you forever than what you see when you're grown up. And means it's very painful. It's very, very painful, somebody within their own nation, that this has happened. But as you said, 2019 abrogation of 370 and 35A. But after that, you must remember, it was the January or the February of 2020, since then, that we are suffering with the pandemic. So the limitation of, but there is the development going on. Yes, we do see that. We have seen it in the Leh Ladakh, how the things were. That is the thing that we have to bring it out and show. But the speed and the pace. But this is a partnership which has to happen. It is a government and the private partnership which will be working. And I must say that I can stand next to Raj Kaul. His pain should be my pain. If we do that, and today's time has already changed, we do know that. And I did mention in the earlier show, earlier dosa eating in Delhi was a signature item because it was treated that is from South India. But now you are eating makki di roti in Tamil Nadu, thanks to information technology, because a guy who was born in Chandigarh, he's working in Tamil Nadu, one IT company, or working in Bangalore. So the pain, it is not about the Kashmiri Hindus genocide all over. We have to work it out. We have to come together within, the Kashmiri community itself. No, I'm just saying all the Hindus worldwide has to come together and make sure that justice has been done to them. Because whosoever has been responsible, they should be paying the price so the others in future doesn't dare to. And my very loud and clear message to the fake Human Rights Commission, that human right belongs to all, not to one specific religion or a community. So they have to see it. So let's work it out, because it, as they have talked about the development schemes, but what took like 28 years, just 2 years, it will take a time. Nothing will happen overnight. And to have the confidence, Rajji did mention very beautifully, as I said in my, because for our future generation, as we say, agar swarg kahin hai to Kashmir mein hai, We would like our future generation to go and see. This is not only the Europe, which is beautiful, Kashmir. We want to see the film industry coming here and shooting the way it used to be. So let's work it out together. This is not a politically, means I'm just speaking. I'm speaking all from my heart. We have to work together, support the government, and if we just see, because there is no other alternative right now. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
No alternative now. And just Dr. Vinikantru, living in Bharat, living in Delhi, have seen the all policy makers and policies houses going very closely. She has so many experiences also. So just working in the hospital where the most of the politicians came and just enjoy their health. I'm using whether enjoy their health, but not the whatever that you are going to do. But how just you analyze the situation now? You are recently, as you earlier mentioned, you have been your home in Kashmir. And how was the feeling? How just you see it? How you analyze just to you first landed when you just actually when you are 8 and 9 years old and you just came out from the Kashmir. Now you're just senior and a mother of children and living a life. How just you analyze the situation and all the conditions?
Well, thank you, Rakesh ji, for calling me here on this esteemed panel. I'm very happy to share my experience. I went to Kashmir in August 2021, and I did this without the knowledge of my parents, because my parents, only on mentioning the thought of Kashmir, shivers go down their spine. And on top of it, when they listen to it that I on my own want to visit my home, which is in South Kashmir, which is Anantnag. It was the den of militancy and terrorism when the terrorism started in 1987 to 1990. It was at its peak. So they wouldn't let me to go there otherwise, because it would have been really difficult to convince them. But still, against their wishes, I went there, because I used to get dreams every night, thinking about my home, being in that home and playing there with my brother and my dog. So these dreams were recurrent. So to heal myself, I did go back there and entered the house, which no longer belongs to us, because this was a distress sale. But I needed to go inside, because I'm a doctor and I know if I go inside, I will be able to heal myself. The feeling was very unnerving. It was disturbing. So for 1 month, I couldn't concentrate on my job, but still, I thought to myself that yes, it was important, and I did it. So just to cut it short, I'm not going to let people, I'm not going to tell the same stories again and again. This has been told very many number of times, but unfortunately, we still have a section of society who doesn't know what exactly happened on 19th January 1990. So I have people in my hospital, my own colleagues, who question me that why didn't you raise your voice at that point in time. So through your medium, I'm going to tell them that it was not possible at that point in time, because media was limited. Our social interactions, our
Yeah.
internet, our information technology was not so advanced. We didn't have Twitter, we didn't have any WhatsApp, or we didn't have any Facebook to express ourselves, and we were too young actually to understand what was happening. So once I became more conscious about these facts, in fact, I am coming forward to express myself. I have written a chapter in a book in KPCS, which is a community which is in UK, where I studied for a part of my life. So through this medium, as Raj Kaulji said, we need to tell people that what has exactly happened. One, two, when we know that the mandirs and the temples and the religious places who belong to Hindus, who have been kept alive for all these years, are destroyed by certain miscreants, why can't they be penalized? Now the government of India needs to come forward and needs to find these people who are doing it. So it's not that just they have to report it that this thing happened somewhere near Martin. They have to go down into the community, delve deep into it and find the people who are doing it actually. So why can't they be penalized? My other question to government of India is, when people from Kashmir can come to Delhi for their higher education, why was I forced to leave my higher education in the state of Jammu and Kashmir in Srinagar? My father was actually afraid to send me to Srinagar to complete my MD. He said, I wouldn't be sending you to the same college where a nurse who was cut to pieces and raped and left alone on a road to be eaten by dogs. So I'm not going to let you go down to that street and let you complete your studies. So this is my question to the people of Kashmir who are living there right now. Why do they come to Delhi to complete their higher education, but in their hearts they have this feeling that they don't belong to India? So this feeling somehow needs to change. So I need to understand their situation. For this, we have to create forums where both of us are sitting, face to face with each other. Now, it's not an easier task. For generations, people have been made to believe that Jagmohan ji, who was the governor at that point in time, he created some theories and asked all of us to leave. Now, this is my question to everybody in India. Would you leave your house just because somebody is telling you that these are the things which are going to happen? You would never leave your ancestral house just because somebody is trying to intimidate you. It was just that the people around us were shot point blank and they were killed in front of us that we had to leave. The women folk were being raped and everything was happening in front of us. So our parents were actually scared for us, so that we had to leave. Another thing which I think the government of India is afraid is that they would lose their vote bank. Come elections, every government thinks that it is the divide and rule policy which hampers their narrative, or maybe the people who are going to be a vote bank for them. Now, if you create a situation in Kashmir where they are told that this thing would be changed, for example, 370 was abrogated. Now they come forward with these tactics of stone pelting, etc., creating a situation where civilians are harmed. Now they with this kind of armor in their hand are trying to create this situation where we are thinking that they are the ones who are suffering. So this narrative has to change, and government of India has to sit down and make policy and do the groundwork which is needed. How we are going to do it, when we are going to do it, we all need to sit down and make policies.
Okay. So nicely, just you put your views and just for the narratives and on vote banks and just for the how the one theory is already left. I'll discuss the after the just a small break, and then I'll come to Dr. Ross call how just you the vote bank policies and the politics is going to affect the real cause and how the one factor you are not all mentioning. I'm mentioning here. I'll take the answer from you. The Hindu-Muslim factor, so that not going to now Jamna, Ganga, Jamna, Tavi. Sorry. Whatever fact is there, that should become before all world, wherever and silent and Supreme Court is silent and all mostly are silent. Why they are keeping mum, either the Modi government or any government, for the sake of our Kashmiri Hindus who are just living outside or in India, just like refugee. A break, after break, I'll come to you again. All okay? Nothing technical
Go
issue.
ahead. You're
Yeah,
fine.
I think so. Okay, so now welcome after break. Actually promo was not proper running, so I just confused. So Raj Kaulji, how just the vote bank politics is going to affect the most of the all policies? Well, this is so ridiculous in our country, Bharat. Once one prime minister declared the country secular in the state of emergency. And just for the 42nd Amendment in 76, when emergency was imposed, no one just taking the now after that, no one government and no like the PIL, no any person taking the note that should be just declared as unconstitutional. One. Number two, just how the Hindu Muslim factor, how the Muslim dominated and our all the, I think thousands and lakhs. The I not agree with the figure of 44,167. Only Kashmiri Hindus are just forced to leave the Kashmir. So number two, these two factors. How does you analyze the Hindu Muslim factor and the vote bank politics? And the whatever narratives, somebody say Kashmiri Pandit, somebody say Kashmiri Hindus. Why and what for?
So, Kumarji, that's a very good question, and I think you bring a very good perspective on what has happened wrong with the Indian politics. And it started in 70s, absolutely during the emergency, and the word the secular, I call it sick in terms of secular, not
Yeah.
secularism. It's secularism, and that the reason was purely for the vote bank, as you rightly said, is that there was a math or a calculation which was done by Congress at that time or Indira Gandhi ji at that time, that if the politics was based on caste and then you had the minority vote bank, in this case the Muslim vote bank, and you combined it all together, you had nothing to do, and especially that particular block of vote was guaranteed. You went to a certain economically backward people, and then also to this vote bank of from a Muslim standpoint. So those combined together gave them a permanent dominance in the vote bank politics, and they always had power. And what that created discrimination, that created bias, and we as a Kashmiri Hindus were we had to face the repercussions of that bias. And the reason, when in 1986 or prior to that, anytime there was violence against Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir, there would be a mosque will be burned in Lebanon or some other place, and we will be in college, and there will be stone pelting in college, and we'll be saying, okay, what is there us to do with this whole issue? Because we had nothing to do, and we were always at the receiving end. The unfortunate part was that the government of India would never support us. I'll tell you another example. There were temples in Kashmir. There's a Bharat Mandir in Chhatabal area of Kashmir, Srinagar. And in some, and again, I've heard the stories from my parents and my grandparents, is that one fine day there was this someone uncovered a tomb in the ground, and the local Muslims said, okay, well, this is our land now. It's going to be a mosque. It's not a Bharat Mandir or a Bharat temple there. And nothing from the government, or no action from the government was taken, just because they wanted to protect their vote bank. And that was the biggest sham, I would say, from a Congress government standpoint, that anytime there was oppression against Hindus, which was happening in Kashmir, whether it was in a 70s or 80s, then 86 when Anantnag riots happened, and of course the biggest ethnic cleansing of 89 and 90 when we had to leave. The successive governments, the local government, which was either a national conference or PDP, or all those local politicians, were hand in glove with the central government. In this case, either whether it was Congress or Janata Dal, or it was Mufti Said being the home minister and sitting in Delhi, and still the Narasangar, I call it, or ethnic cleansing was happening in ways. The other discriminatory thing would happen is in the local, when you had the delimitation in Kashmir Valley, what would happen is, I'll give you an example. The Habakadal constituency in Habakadal had the Hindu dominant vote. And what would happen is they would delimit, or the boundaries will be changed. So we will never have a dominant vote bank in Kashmir. So we'll always be in minority, and we'll never have representation in even local assembly. So the discrimination was happening under the guidance or under the view of the central government, in that case dominated by Congress, whereas Kashmiri Hindus had no representation in the local politics or local assembly. So that was the discrimination because of the vote bank in the center. They wanted to protect their vote bank. We were never a priority for the central government. So we were always ignored. And it continued until the bluff was called by the current Bharatiya Janata Party, where they consolidated the Hindu vote bank. And they said, okay, we're going to play the same game, what you have been playing for the last 70 years, we'll consolidate. And the fact is now there is justice happening. The good thing, what I would recognize, our current BJP government, what they have done is, for example, triple talaq. I think they have been very honest in terms of getting riddance of the bad things which are in the political system or which are in the society. They have been fair, whether the development has been either to the Hindus or to the Muslims. At least they have been transparent about their policies and they have been transparent about their politics. We should appreciate that. Yes, they are consolidating the vote bank of Hindus, but I think it is in the better interest of the country, the internal insurgencies which are happening all over the country. I think it's helping to consolidate the vote bank, and in the process, it is going to help country to be strong. So I'll just leave it here and just yield it back to the panelists here. Rakesh, you are on mute, I think.
Thank you. Sorry. Sanjay, how just Rajpalji just briefed and whatever trying to answer, I am just looking for some answer. Sorry, I'm not getting the answer all from you. I may be wrong and right, I don't know, but what we're trying to extract, you like London people. Sanjay, how just the policies going on? I'm just giving you the policies recently, the sketch, government, India, Modi government has trying to rehabilitate the Hindus and separatists who invite the Hindu back to Kashmir. And the apathy of the part of the government and suffering of the Kashmiri Hindus has been highlighted. Recently, a play, Kashmir, Kashmir, and the well-known journalist Rahul Pandita writes in memoir also, as we know. Now consider the order abrogated Article 370, the road block or resettlement of Kashmiri Hindus. What a problem. How the Sanjay Tikkus has says the 70 affair is different issues, the exodus of Kashmir Hindus, both should be dealt with separately. And now, if you see, the employment package also extended, lot of money just already on allotted for the immigrants, for the migrants, rules has met. But whatever statement from the local leaders here, they are not happy with the performance of government. One. Number two, why don't they redefine the Hindu-Muslim definition? Those who Islamists, still they are in Kashmir. They are giving packages more than the Hindus. Why and what for? For the sake of votes? Or for the sake of nation? Or for the Hindu nationals?
Rakeshji, very pertinent question. We have to understand the logic a little bit, and I will have to go back a little. You have to understand in India, Muslims are treated as a minority, though they are around 20%. The minorities should have been Sikhs, Jain, Buddhists, who are minuscule minority, less than 2.5%. But Muslims are treated as minorities. In J&K state, the Muslims are 95%, in Valley especially, and Hindus are less than 2.5%. But
about 96%.
Yes, and we are treated as majority, and they are given the quotas and reservation in every facet of life. So that has been going on.
One plus, I want to plus you, what a thought. There are 9 states in Bharat, I'm not just saying for India, those where the Hindus are minorities, but they are calling majorities. And what the minister of the Congress government, he just personally shared with me, and he was just out from the cabinet, A.R. Antule, who raised the question as a minority affairs minister, the last Congress government, said, Mr. Rakesh, I raised the issue in cabinet and I was removed from the cabinet next day. 9 states in India. This is also the ridiculous and this is so strange.
Yes. So I have to continue on my thought process. Please. They have been given the reservations and the support throughout and in every part of India. So if you look at various other states where the Hindus are absolute majority, you have still the examples of Muslims becoming chief ministers and people in high authority. Whereas in Kashmir, you have never had a Hindu chief minister, despite Jammu being a predominantly Hindu area. and that is how it was demarcated in the elections. The problem we have in Kashmir, that most people think it is economic problem, it is a lack of education. That's all nonsense. The problem in Kashmir is this Muslim majority with the fundamentalists coming across from Pakistan who are trained into weapons and all. They want to establish the Sharia law in Kashmir, or they want to get independence from India. That is their fundamental need. That's what they are pursuing. And we became a small, what you call, the effect of that. They thought that the Kashmiri Pandits, the Hindus here, represent the Indian ethos in Kashmir. Therefore, let's get rid of them, push them out of the valley. That's what they did. And today, if you talk to a Kashmiri Muslim, he says, I may not have become part of Pakistan, I have not become independent, but what I have done is I have gotten rid of the Hindus from Kashmir Valley. And they feel happy about it. Now go into present day. With the Afghanistan scenario that evolved recently, the Taliban taking over in Afghanistan, that has pumped in new force in Kashmir. Again, you have seen genocide-like killings where they earmarked Hindus. Sikhs, teachers, you have heard, you have made programs on them, that they were pointed, they were taken out and killed. Just why? Because they are Hindus, they are non-Muslims, and they want to send a message that the Hindu is not welcome here. Now, in terms of what is the government of India doing? If you look at it, government of India did start with the right thought process that, yes, we need to get rid of Article 370 and 35A. We welcome that. But then going forward, again, when they are trying to establish the rule of land in Kashmir, may have elections going forward, who are they inviting? They are inviting the same gang, Gupkar gang, same Farooq Abdullah, same PDP leaders, same other leaders, Congress leaders, those who have been responsible for the mayhem of Hindus in Kashmir, the disintegration of Kashmir from India. They are again reaching out to the same people. Now look at the delimitation process. Have they given any representation to Kashmiri Hindus? Like Raji was saying that even Habakadal constituency that had majority of Kashmiri Pandits in it, Khayyam area was attached to it so that a Muslim would be elected and not a Kashmiri Hindu. And same thing, till today, no political representation has been given to us. No reservation has been made for us. So do we feel that this government can do things? Yes. Like I said in the beginning, our hopes are high with this government. They are the only ones who can do. When you talked about Modi ji, his individual stature, yes, he is the best. But look at the policies of this government again vis-a-vis Kashmir. I am not satisfied because what I see, Domicile Act is not in my favor. Are they doing enough? No. What are they doing for the settlement of Kashmiri Hindus in Kashmir Valley? Nothing. They are just giving a employment package, saying
not
okay,
I was
we'll
only, not even I was. Sorry.
No, I watch that is, but what they are saying is, okay, we'll give you certain jobs. Those who are living in refugee camps are forced to take those jobs, send their daughters, women to become teachers in remotest possible corners of Kashmir Valley, putting their lives and their honor online. And they think that is settlement? After 32 years of living as refugees in our own country, you think we will fall for that? No way. That is not our settlement. Our settlement has to be something concrete where we can live in Kashmir with pride, holding our head high, and we can be able to maintain the identity we have, our culture, have a political freedom, have economic freedom. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for few jobs. Okay, some people will take it. That is the need of the community. But that is not a settlement of Hindu back in Kashmir. That is what has to be conveyed to the government, BJP government. And that is what every Hindu should strive for. Yes, temples are important. Tourism is important. but that is bringing revenue and money into the hands of Muslims. It's not doing anything for me, the Hindu of Kashmir. Think about that. Think about what is doing
Very
something
serious
for
question.
me.
Very serious question you have raised. Just the temples and the tourism is not for the Hindus. They are now hands of the Muslims. Those are the looters, who are the butchers. Just what they are really the already anti-nationals. As I think, according to my view, Vidya Bhushanji, just how just to raise the Sanjay Kaulji issues, the No Domicile Act, and no any political reservation, no any political representatives. In real terms, lakhs and crores has been just already given and a diversified and different way and just allotted to the concern and all the on the bureaucracy, all the Muslims are sitting, they are totally biased according to my information. What the Sanjay ji shared, same like that. If you are giving the package for the tourism temple, in the temple, the Muslims are sitting just for the sake of the money and all. Why they? Recently, how you see the Anantnag and the Tripur Sundari Mandir temple, how they're trying to target killings just to give the threatening. Why and what for? And you like people who are just living in outside the country or within country, what you are doing, what you have some responsibility also.
Kumarji, the backdrop is basically very old. The rot has been there for the last 70 years. The Muslim appeasement started with Gandhi. It continued in the regime of Nehru for 17 years, as long as he was the prime minister. It was continued, and forcibly the Indian constitution was amended to put the word secular. We are not a secular country. I mean, as Raj put it, it's a secular country. I mean, we have separate laws. I mean, the laws are separate. The treatment is separate. Like, for example, when we look at, for example, when I had to go to Amarnath Yatra, I had to pay for it. While as Muslims get basically, subsidies to go to Hajj. I mean, we are the only, there are 54
That
Muslim nations in
disparity
the
carried
world.
forward. Yeah, that disparity is
We
carried
are the
forward.
only
Yeah.
country in the world who are basically providing, free funding for, somebody to perform his religious duties. So, I mean, if we look at it from the Kashmir perspective, reservations in engineering colleges, medical colleges, jobs, promotions, they were all linked to you being a Muslim or a Hindu. My dad in 1958 had to basically go to Amritsar to basically get higher education. He was not allowed to basically, join an institution in Kashmir. Me, Raj, Kaulsab, I'm sure that we all have basically got our education outside the state rather than getting benefit from a state, because we were considered to be a second class citizens in our own land. We were in the minuscule minority in Kashmir, and we were basically considered to be as a majority. So that policy has been continuing for the last 70 years. As all the panelists showed very strong faith in the current regime, but nothing much is being happening even in the Modi government for the last 7
I am
years.
also same faith, but just I just
Yeah,
expose the
our faith gets
bureaucracy.
shaken. I mean,
Bureaucracy.
our
Bureaucracy makes the hurdles before this political
bureaucracy makes the
meeting.
hurdles. It's a kind of policy paralysis. See, we are forcing those prime minister packages are happening, and people are being forced to go back to the valley. They are put forcibly in townships which are basically supported and secured by the security forces. What kind of life we have there? I mean, our ladies. I mean, there are some cases. I mean, which the larger community in India should know, that Hindu Kashmiri girls who were basically posted in remote parts of Kashmir as a prime minister package as teachers, they were forcibly converted into Islam and married to the locals. I mean, how many people know about it? We don't have a one voice, as the policy of the Congress government was, that they consolidated the Muslims, that Muslim vote was one, while as Hindus were divided in communities. We become Jats and Brahmins and this and that still continues. The issue based politics is being taken away, and it is basically religious or faith based politics. Our votes have been divided. We have strong faith in Modi ji's governance, but the people around him, the governance around him is not basically making concrete steps. Now, my personal view, as others put it subtly, I want to put it more candidly, that government of India is trying to send us back to those places where we came from, where we were terrorized, maimed, looted, raped, and arson. We don't want to go back to those places. 7 exoduses down the line, haven't we learned our lessons the hard way? Should we trust those people, very people, again and again? You see, communities evolve, Kumarji, over a period of time. We have seen the people who hang Galileo for telling that the earth is in the center of universe. They apologized to him. After some time, they realized that they were wrong. But the Kashmiri community, the Kashmiri Muslims in the valley, have no remorse. Majority of them are
Yeah.
still believing in the Jagmohan theory. Majority of them are still believing that the government of India connived and sent us, outside Kashmir so that they could basically look after Kashmir. They have no remorse. They have not basically, not many Muslims have apologized for what happened to Kashmiri Hindus. And they are not even looking, whenever government of India is taking measures for us to go back, they are basically coming on the roads and stopping it. We saw Amarnath many years back, that a piece of land was to be given to the Amarnath Shrine Board, and people came on the road citing some stupid reasons for that.
So Vidya, so many disparities are there, but
so many
my
disparities
question,
are there.
yeah.
Even today, there are hundreds and thousands of packages for the Kashmiri Muslim students who are freely coming, on those prime minister packages and studying in various parts of the country. They are getting all the benefits. We have seen the Kashmiri craftsmen, those shawl makers and the paper mache makers having big shops and big trade centers in places like even Goa. I mean, it's a one-way traffic.
So government of India should think they are the shameless and thankless people. So they should not be whatever support is
Kumarji,
given,
I can throw some little bit light on in the past. I don't have any columns in saying on this public platform that Kashmiri Muslims are thankless people, not even to the government of India, but to their own people as well. Sheikh Abdullah, who basically snatched every morsel from the Kashmiri
he is
Hindus.
basically anti-national. Sheikh Abdullah, like and Mufti Muhammad Saeed,
He was anti-national, but for his own people, he was not anti-national. But for his own people, no. I mean, he was anti-national for the larger India, but for his own people, he was a messiah. He basically snatched every morsel from.
Yeah.
No, I mean for his own people. I mean,
So
land to the abolition of money laundering act.
Time is going up. So nice. Just I'll take from all. I take the 1 minute reactions to all, but I'll take the Vandanaji. Vandanaji raised the one word for the human rights. And human rights. So I asked, why should not the human rights definition of human rights should be defined properly? For the sake of the people, not for the sake of politics, number one. And 1, 2, I'll just take the input from the Sanjay ji, Raj ji, and Vidya Bhushan ji at last. Narratives, what narrative should be Kashmiri Pandit or Kashmiri Hindus? That narrative should be fixed from the all. That is also very important for the going ahead for the sake of the Kashmiri Hindu and Hindus of the country. Vandana ji.
Nation comes first.
Yeah.
Vidya Bhushan Savarkar Darji, I don't agree with you when you said Kashmiri Muslims are not loyal to the nation. Muslims living anywhere in Bharat are not loyal to the nation. Let's put it this way. You see that
I know
Hyderabad.
They are not even they call the hypocrites.
Because in Hyderabad,
the DNA is problem.
When we recently saw what happened when India lost the match and Pakistan won, they were celebrating. So it is the time now for us, every individual Bharatiya, whosoever is living in Bharat, they have a responsibility. Government is for the people, by the people. Government cannot be everywhere. We have to be watchdog. We have to inform the government. We have to become informers and tell he is a traitor. He is a traitor. That policy government of India has to make if it is not been placed somewhere, because your identity will not be revealed, but the person will be taken. Because now if we can ban 35 YouTube channels in a fraction of a second, we do have resources. India is not, this is new Bharat. What it was yesterday, what it is today, there is a big difference. So everyone has to contribute. Number one. When you ask about human rights, I always say that organization itself is very sham. They see as per their convenience, and that should not be. If human rights belongs to Abdullah, that should belong to Vandana, because if you pinch me, I will have the same blood. And that has never happened anywhere in the world. Now, United Nations have a responsibility too. We are facing what these people faced in Bharat. Now the same situation is happening for us here, even in United States of America. Let Sanjay Kaulji and Raj Kaulji agree with me. We are talking about Islamophobia. What are we talking? On September 11th, on the 20th anniversary, instead of having dismantling global Islamization, we are having dismantle global Hindutva. Shame on them, whosoever is creating this kind of narrative. Thank you very much. I'll have others speak.
Just very briefly, just actually already so interesting discussion going on. So already 10 minutes late, but no issue. Just I'll take the within 1 minute 20 seconds to each. How just do you think the definition of human rights should be changed and modified? One, and do you think one narrative should be there, either a Kashmiri Pandit or Kashmiri Hindus? I am just favor for Kashmiri Hindus. What do you all three panelists think? Last Mandana.
Okay, let me go. I'll just briefly, 20 seconds. Absolutely agree with you, Kumarji, that the narrative has to be Kashmiri Hindus and having Kashmiri Pandits and all that specific to the titles and specific to the denominations or Varnas is not. We are all from the same Varna. We are the Hindu Varna. So the narrative has to be Kashmiri Hindu. And anyone from any part of the world should be able to go to Kashmir, any Hindu, and we need to encourage that. So that absolutely is a non-negotiable. And so it's a policy which has been used to divide Hindus. So we just don't want to get into that. So absolutely. In terms of human rights, the human rights, to Vandanaji's point, the human rights in US are run by the Abrahamicals. And they have a certain, because the narrative is always about the others and not about Hindus and not about Buddhists and all other Sanatani Varnas. So it's an issue and it's not fair. The human rights have to be equal. As she mentioned, the blood is same. So it has to be fairer. And I don't think it's agenda-based at this point. It's not fair. And Hindus need to play a major part in transforming or changing that. So I'll just stop here. And
thank you. Sanjay, same question.
Thank you, Rakesh ji. First of all, India is a secular country and every Hindu by nature is a secular human being. It is the other communities that have to recognize what secularism means. So leaving at that, about the human rights, you have to understand that Kashmiri Hindus, who are also called the Pandits, have been victims of genocide. And after that, they have been the victims of denial of genocide in their own country. So India, the government has to recognize this fact and actually look into the cases where who implemented genocide, how it was implemented, who are the perpetrators, and they should be brought to justice. They should set an example so that rest of India will not repeat the same mistake that happened in Kashmir. Very important. And we should not get into the discussion of whether it is Pandit or Hindu. A Pandit is a Hindu. The people are forcing this discussion on us to divide us. Just understand. A Kashmiri Pandit, if I call myself Kashmiri Pandit, I am a Hindu to the core. I have been the flag bearer of Hinduism. When Shankaracharya wanted to revive Hinduism in rest of India, he came to Kashmir. He debated with the Brahmins of Kashmir. Once he was convinced, he formulated Sundar Lahiri. Then they told him establish 4 mutts in rest of India, and that is how Hinduism will be revived. We have been the fountainheads of Hinduism. Why this discussion? Is Kashmiri Pandit a Hindu or not? This is nonsense. We are being forced.
No.
My question is different. No.
I'm talking the narratives.
Narratives.
Understand, those narratives are being forced on us. They want us to be just running in circles.
No, Sanjay, we should not be just a factor any just to go into the forcing whatever we are, whatever Raj says and Vandana shared. I totally agree. You will agree. What Kashmiri Hindu means Kashmiri Pandit. So I'm not.
You said it. Kashmiri Hindu means Kashmiri Pandit, and vice versa.
There's
no discussion.
So we don't going to narratives. This is age of the new age technology. That's why I'm pressing on. Vidya Bhushanji, very briefly, please.
See, I mean, for me, what's more important that it's not just Kashmir where the ethnic cleansing is happening. There are at least 20 more places in rest of India, like Kerala, where Hindus are basically being, subjected to genocide. So
Yeah.
what we should basically do that across the board, as far as the human rights are concerned, we need to basically formulate policies like, for example, one nation, one policy, whether it is your civil laws, your personal laws. We should have uniform civil code to start with. We should have basically, the family planning policy should be there, so that the country progresses rather than basically, one particular community getting into higher numbers and occupying, like the way we were in Kashmir. So that's a very important thing. Now, as far as Kashmir is concerned, we are looking for government of India. Like, the last 2 years were washed in COVID times, but in the next 2 years before the next general elections, Kashmiri Hindus have to have basically their garvapsi. It's enough. Like, I can tell you on this platform that my dad is 80-year-old, and he can see, you can see a hope in his eyes that Modi ji has paved a way for Kashmiri Hindus to return back to their their homeland, which was forcibly snatched from them. That's all what I can say. We have strong faith in the current regime, current leadership, and we are sure that the policy making will be strong, and there will be no policy paralysis like it has happened in the last so many years. Namaskar.
Okay. So last, not the least, Vandana ji, just you raised the question of human rights. They totally agree. Now I only ask from you the narratives of Kashmiri Hindus and the Kashmiri Pandit. That's all.
Kashmiri Hindus, let's all come together, fight it out globally, wherever there is an oppression to our community, to our people. We have to fight it out. The ultimately number counts. Let this be UN. If we have to have reforms in US, we are ready to do that. Thank you.
So nice of all of you. Just Sanjay Kaulji, Vidyabhushan, just I think change the name. I'm saying the screen, Vidyabhushan Savarkar Dhar. So great. I think that there's a new change in your name. And Raj Kaulji and Dr. Vinny Kantru and all Vandana Jinganji. So nice of you joined this show. Just this Kashmiri Hindu Exodus and the role of government and the Bharat. So I think whatever we have concern, government of India will do, Modi government will do as a fit, and our Prime Minister Narendra Bhai Modi, I think what he has been doing, the government is doing, ultimately result will come to us with the new and transparent mode and transparent model for the sake of Kashmiri Hindu and for the sake of Hindustan, Bharat, not India. Jai Hind, Jai Bharat.
Yeah.
Namaste.
Namaste.